Welcome back to the Secondary Science Simplified podcast and week 2 of our 3-week series to help you end the school year organized. Last week, we organized your resources and I shared how I do this digitally as well as with paper printed resources and the system I set up in order to maintain this organization throughout the year. So if you didn't give that episode a listen, go back and check out episode 182 on that. This week, we are going to talk about ending the year organized in terms of organizing your classroom or whatever the physical space is in which you teach or spend the most time for those of you who float. I personally love a spring clean out, but I especially love an end of the year clean out before you leave for the summer. Maybe your floors are being waxed or they're painting your walls, so you have to take everything off of them before you leave for the summer. Maybe you're switching classrooms or inheriting a classroom for the first time after you've been floating the last year or two. So regardless, this is truly the best time to do a little clean out. That way the room is ready for anyone they bring in to clean it this summer. And also it's going to feel so good when you come back in July or August or September, whenever it is you return, to come back to a space that is just ready for you to dive in with your students. I also think this is such a great time of year to do this, to rope in those seniors that are in your AP biology class or whatever after you've taken the exam to help you. I don't know about you, but every school I've taught in, seniors get out like 2 weeks before everyone else. I think it's so they can get grades finalized and all of that ready for graduation. But especially then after AP exams, it's like I would have seniors for maybe 5 days and then they were gone for the rest of the year. So this is the perfect thing to get them to help you with if you just want some more manual labor. So if you are ready to get your teaching space organized as we wrap up the year, regardless of how big or small your space is, you are in the right place. Let's do this. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. Okay, a little confession. I have barely watched television in probably the last 5 or 6 years, with the exception of Survivor, which I've never missed a season of, sports documentaries, and live sporting events, because we love to watch those. My husband and I love to watch the documentaries together, and then we love watching live sports like as a family and just as a social thing. I love a reason to host a potluck at my house. Now, the reason is because if I'm alone, I want to read a book, usually a rom-com or a romantasy. If you're into those things, DM me on Instagram. I would love to chat all things ACOTAR with you or anything related to that, if you know what that means. If you don't, just ignore that. Okay, but there is one show that I did watch religiously when it came out, and that was The Home Edit. Clea and Joanna are these professional home organizers in the Nashville area, but they travel all over and they go into celebrity homes, but also just normal people homes, and they edit their spaces. They get it organized. I've purchased all of their books. I have way too many of The Home Edit brand containers from the Container Store. Okay, like I love them, especially their episodes came out during the pandemic, and it was just like such a time to organize your home, when we were stuck in it for so long. Some of you are listening to this, you're very type A. And so you're like, yes, I love it. Like, I'm here for this. I am right there with you. Others of you are not type A, and you're like, I feel sweaty and a little queasy just hearing you talk about this. This is so not my thing. So this episode is for all of you, but it is especially for my non-type A people. I tend to surround myself by type B people. I love you. I love you guys so much. And I want you to pretend like I'm just right there alongside you, encouraging you through this process if this is something that feels so overwhelming to you, okay? I've talked about this several times too, so if you need more than just this episode to encourage you, don't worry. You can go back and listen to episode 75. You can go back and listen to episode 22 I'll link those things in the show notes. Today, though, we're going to use Clea and Joanna's method. I shared my personal method for organization back in episode 75, but I didn't want to share the exact same thing for those of you who are my ride or dies who have been here from the beginning. So today we're going to apply Clea and Joanna's the home edit method to your classroom. All these methods work. They're all going to get us to the same goal. Okay, so the one thing you do need, though, whether you're using the method I shared in episode 75 or you're using this one I'm going to share today, is you need my classroom reset challenge. It's at instant.rocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge. It's also linked in the show notes. I want you to grab that and print it out and put it on a clipboard. I really think having something tactile and physical to touch here is super important to kind of ground you in the midst of the overwhelm. Because one of the things about organizing something like an entire classroom, especially those of you who are in a beautiful lab space, there are so many cabinets, there's so many closets. It's a blessing and a curse. There's a lot of scary things you might have hidden through there. Okay, I've heard some things through the years and I've seen some things in my own experiences of the classrooms I've inherited. So I get it. But here's the thing about how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so that's what we're going to do. And this challenge is so helpful because I give you 6 checklists and they're each one page and you just work through them one by one. Okay, and they're in a large font. So it's not like one page size 8 font. Okay, it's very reasonable. But we're going to walk through 5 areas: your desk, your filing cabinet, the front of your classroom, whatever that entails. If you have a demo table, if you have bookshelves, whatever's in the front, I like to call your prime real estate. Any storage cabinets you have, like built-ins, things like that. And then if you have any sort of storage closet, any access to that. Those are the 5 checklists. You're going to do one of these a day. And the goal is we use the Dave Ramsey snowball imagery. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, I guess he's like a budgeting personal finance expert. I only learned about him through my husband, who's like a Dave Ramsey disciple when we first got married. And I'm grateful he was, because my husband made like 20 grand a year our first year married. And I was a first year teacher. So y'all know I think I made like 28. So, we needed Dave Ramsey on our side. But he has something called this debt snowball. But the idea is you actually tackle the smallest area first. You pick the smallest thing, which in our circumstances would be your desk. And then you do that first because it's going to be a quick win. That's going to give you then some momentum that will then propel you and give you the energy you need to tackle bigger and bigger areas in your classroom. Okay. So we're going to start small with the desk, move into filing cabinet, and then you move on from there. It's the order in which you print the checklist. So you don't have to remember this. Now, there is a bonus checklist. So there's a 6th area included, and that is your chemical storage closet or your chemical supply closet. But this is not to be done alone, which is why I marked it bonus, because I do not want you tackling this alone. This is a group project for you and your department to do this together at the end of the year, maybe during your teacher work days or something like that. You may need to hire a chemical disposal company. Your district may have to fork over some money if you've got some crazy things up in there that need to be safely disposed of. So that's why this is a group project and not something you're going to do that part on your own. These first 5 checklists, though, you are going to do on your own. Okay, so we're going to start small with one area. So starting with your desk, we will then walk through the home edit process. This is their process. It's edit, categorize, contain, and maintain. So edit basically means you have to get everything out into the light. It's going to look worse before it looks better. Y'all know this if you've ever cleaned out a closet or moved houses or anything like that. Like, it gets worse before it gets better. You got to get everything out and spread it out. Okay, this is why I love doing this, like I said, during a class period with your AP biology students when you got nothing going on, you got some space, or after school, of course, works great too. Get it all spread out and then determine what you actually need that's in there. And then you're going to have to get rid of stuff. So this is where we're really editing down the amount of stuff we have, because most people have way more than they actually need. I like to determine what I'm actually going to use, and then I organize everything else into piles I call deflect, donate, and dump. You can hear more about those in episode 75, but figure out what you actually need here. See if there's anything that someone else may need, and you can go put it on a cart and go roll around your hallway and see if any of your teacher neighbors need anything. And then we're going to get rid of the rest. Okay, we really got to edit. One of the problems most people have, especially in their homes, is you're using your storage that you have at like 100% capacity. Okay, most people are not in a Monica closet situation where you open something and things like explode out. That's like using a space at 120% capacity. Most of us just use every inch of what we have. And you really need to coexist like with your space at 70 to 80% capacity. So there's always breathing room. That's just a good rule of thumb there. Okay, so we're going to edit. That's the first thing we're going to do. If you need more help with editing, go listen to episode 75. From there, you're going to categorize. You're going to take everything that you have left and you're going to group similar items. So you're going to put all your pens together, all your Post-it notes, all of your stopwatches, or whatever it may be. You're going to put those things in categories. And then step 3 is to contain those things. Now with the desk, this is why it's a great starting place, because your desk most naturally has some sort of drawers. So those are great container spaces. So you might have your middle drawer where you're going to keep, pens and your backup phone charger. Maybe your side drawers where you keep Post-it notes and other supplies like that. There's may be a little filing cabinet in there. What are you going to specifically keep in those files in your built-in desk? But you may also need some containers on top of your desk. And you can utilize stuff you already have. Okay, you don't need to buy like special pencil organizers or things like that. Use containers you have. I used to love having beakers on my desk that I would put highlighters in one and, my scissors and stuff in the other. So contain things though. Put those grouped items, those categorized items, contain them in spaces. For when you get into larger spaces like your storage closets or storage cabinets, a couple of things I love to use. One is go to your copy room and see if they have those like heavy duty boxes that copy paper, like computer paper, comes in bulk. Typically, they're wide enough that you can fit 2 stacks of computer paper next to each other. So they're like, 2-foot wide boxes, 24 inches maybe, or maybe not that wide, maybe like 18. And then you can stack like 5 or 6 on top of each other. And they're really just like good heavy duty boxes. Every time I moved schools, classrooms, those were like my go-to boxes. And still now in my office at home, I have my things packed in those boxes. Those are so great. You don't have to buy them. Now, if you want to buy some containers, my absolute favorite containers for organizing lab supplies, not like lab equipment, because that's obviously, you're going to put your beaker someplace, you're in a cabinet, you're going to put your test tube somewhere else. But like really niche lab supplies for things is these shoebox size clear plastic bins. I will link some in the show notes. It's a 12-pack, but they're 6 quarts. So they are literally the size of that you would put a pair of shoes in your closet. But I love them because they're clear. And then you can just take an index card and write what they are and then use clear packaging tape to tape that on. That's like my favorite last minute laminating hack, is almost like laminating it. But stick that on the front with what it is. It will be so helpful, and you can label what the lab is for. So like for my photosynthesis relay activity in biology, I have one, and in that it has the little magnet water molecules I use. It has the little cups I use for the ATP and the NADPH. It has the map of the glucose molecule folded up and put inside there. It all just fits in so nicely, and these stack so well. When I was in an old computer lab for my science space, it had no lab space whatsoever. I just got a bookshelf like on the side of the road, and I stacked these shoebox size bins on that, and that's where I store my little lab supplies. So again, this is not what you're putting beakers in. This is for all those other accessories that go for a lab. Another example is for if you do in biology, if you do like a beak lab, in my TBT store, it's called like my natural selection lab. I have my own version of it, but so many people have one, where students are using different utensils to represent different shapes of beaks. It's such a great lab for natural selection. But like for that lab, I went to the dollar store and got like 6 spatulas, 6 sets of chopsticks, 6 tweezers in place of forceps because I didn't have forceps. Like I had a bunch of random utensils like that. I put those in the container that's labeled natural selection lab. So that's the kind of thing I mean by grouping the lab supplies. Another reason I love those shoebox size bins is when I was floating at times, it was so easy to throw the shoebox with like all of the accessories for the lab on my little cart, wheel it down to whoever's classroom I was going to. They always had like the actual lab equipment because I didn't have any in my classroom anyway. So that was a great strategy too. I love those shoebox bins. So highly recommend those. As I'm saying this right now on Amazon, these are on sale and you can get them for like in the 12-pack, they end up being like $1.50 a container, which is awesome. But you know how prices fluctuate on Amazon. If you are not using camelcamelcamel.com, you've got to, by the way, for Amazon, You put in any link and you can see how the price has fluctuated over time. And then you can put in your email address and have it notify you when something drops below a certain price point. It's a game changer. That's just a free tip that's unrelated I had to share. Okay, so we're going to contain everything. And then you're going to put things away in those containers. And so everything has a place. That's the most important thing I can share with you when it comes to organizing your classroom or your home. The reason you feel overwhelmed by all of the stuff on your desk or all of the stuff on your kitchen island or in your drop zone or in your mudroom or on your bedside table is because things don't have a place. So that's why we start with editing. We've got to narrow things down and then we group them together, but then we contain them. Everything needs a space that it goes. That was probably my favorite thing about moving into our new house and starting with a completely clean slate. We had moved into a rental house between houses. We'd have been in a storage unit. So we'd done a ton of editing each time we'd moved. But it was so fun to move in and be like, okay, I'm deciding now the place that everything's going to go. And if it doesn't have a place, then we're going to figure out how to get rid of it or come up with a place that works better. And it's been so great for my family to know that things have a place. That's the reason you're getting overwhelmed. It's because you don't have places to put stuff. And if you're like, well, I have such limited space or such limited storage, okay, then you need to edit more than the average person does. You're just going to have to do more editing. Okay, you can't keep as much stuff. That's just the nature of kind of the beast there. So I want to encourage you with that. Okay, so once you get everything contained, everything has a place. Now it's just up for you maintaining those things. I think the best time to do a little check-in on your space is at the end of a unit test. Okay, on your unit test day, while students are doing, this is something where you're just kind of bopping around your classroom, you're monitoring, but this is where you kind of pick things up and put them back where they go. So we're nice and reset before, the next unit starts. In my home, I do a quick reset every single night of our main living area. I don't clean every single room. On Sundays, we do a little reset of the kids' bedrooms before the school week starts. That's something we do every Sunday night. Every other night, I'm doing the main kitchen area. And then anytime there's a holiday, I do a deeper kind of clean out reset before I bring out any holiday decor. I can't remember who, I think it's McQuillan Smith is her name, but she has this idea of quieting the house. And this idea of like before you pull out Christmas decorations or your fall decor or 4th of July banners, you quiet your house first. You make it a little simpler before you add to it. So that's a natural time in my home that I kind of do a little audit. But this is the time at the end of the unit to bring it back to the classroom for you guys. Like you'll do a little walkthrough of your classroom space to make sure you need to reset anything. You'll catch up on any grading on any stuff on your desk. I don't want you to collect any more things until you catch up on any grading that's on your desk. And then do a little Post-it note edit of your lessons like we talked about in last week's episode, or write the notes on your home-based doc if you're doing everything digitally, and then put away things that don't belong. Now you're set and ready for a fresh unit, and you can come back to those Post-it notes or notes like we mentioned last time about your resources when you teach us again next year. Okay, now when it comes to group supplies or shared tools, shared equipment, shared resources, let me tell you something. You need my labs mini course because I have a spreadsheet in there that'll save your life. It's meant for you to share with your department and organize all of your equipment, all of your chemicals, where everything is, what their expiration dates are, have your wish list for when you do get, a donation or you get a stipend for something, what you're going to use it on. You need this spreadsheet for your document. It's in my labs mini course, which I'll link in the show notes, which is one of 7 mini courses in my Secondary Science Simplified virtual PD bundle. I explain it as this is all the courses you wish you had taken in your teacher certification program. And I'll link that in the show notes as well. That virtual PD bundle existed before this podcast even did, but then I just wanted to keep talking about things. So now we have the podcast. But if you want even more structure, even more handouts and spreadsheets and teaching and actual PD certificates, that is for you. And it's a great thing you can spend your time doing this summer. You can do it as a department also. And there's options for you to add on live Zoom calls as a department with me, which is a pretty fun new addition too. So you can check that all out in the show notes. Okay, so your take-home challenge today, get off this episode right now and go to instantrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge and download that classroom reset, print it out. If there's 5 school days between now and the next time an episode airs, Then you'll do one per school day, one checklist per day. And then you'll be ready to come back next week and do part 3 of ending the year organized with me. Now, remember, save that chemical supply closet checklist. That's a department-wide task I want you to do at the end of the year on a teacher workday, not by yourself. And you can find everything I mentioned linked in the show notes at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 183. Okay, here's the deal, y'all. Here's what I need from you. If you like this podcast, or if you like anything that It's Not Rocket Science puts out, let me know. Okay, I love hearing from y'all. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or you can just DM me on Instagram, and I screenshot those and save them for a rainy day when I need encouragement. Another thing you can do is share with a friend. You know, I'm so proud at this time of recording this to still be the only podcast that's putting out weekly content specifically for high school science teachers. And so I know that there's so many more high school science teachers out there that could be listening. So share this with a friend. And then the last thing I'll say is this, is it is year 10 of It's Not Rocket Science, which is crazy. I started in January of 2016. So we're on our 10th year right now. And I am so close on all my different platforms from hitting that 10K number in terms of like followers. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, on YouTube, on TBT, would you go and do that? Because I am literally so close on all these platforms to getting to 10K. And then also on TBT, I'm really close to having 10,000 reviews. So typically only 10% of buyers ever actually leave a review. So if you haven't, go into your TBT account, go to My Purchases, and you can sort by things you haven't reviewed and leave reviews. It would mean so much to me and any other creator if you took the time to leave a review. It would be wonderful. I think that's enough. I think I've said enough. I'm going to wrap this up. I keep saying like these are going to be such short episodes, and then I gab and gab because I love organization so much. Oh, that's the last thing I want to say. Like I mentioned last week, if you have like a personal situation that you don't know what to do, you have an organizational thing that's keeping you stuck, it could be in your home or your classroom. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's Not Rocket Science. Rebecca Joyner is my name, and let me know, and I would love to help you work through that. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.